We're with Gary Bartz here on Jazz 90.1, talking about the art of listening and hearing and the difference between those things for Jazz Appreciation Month. So for you, Gary, teaching your students how to listen, how do you do that? Because that's really a difficult concept to grasp.
Well, like I say, when I was 4 years old, I started listening to my uncle's records. He was a big fan of our music. And when I was 6, I stumbled across a Charlie Parker record. And before that, I had been listening to my grandmother's records too. She had Sister Rosetta Tharpe and people
Right.
like that. But my uncle had the Dizzy Gillespie's, the Sonny Stitch, the Bud Powells. He had all of those 78 records. And then this one day, I stumbled on the Charlie Parker record, and not knowing, I didn't know who these names were. I didn't know who they were. But when I heard this instrument, I right there, it was like something hit me. It was like I made up my mind. I want to do that. Whatever this person, I didn't know it could be a man, woman. I didn't know. Whatever this person is doing, I want to do that. I want to find out what that is and do that. So I started asking my parents for. I found out it was an alto saxophone, and I started asking for a saxophone, and took 5 years. So for 5 years, without an instrument, never having played an instrument, I was listening. I was listening. I was making up my mind. Okay, when I get my horn, I want to sound like this. Okay, I want to sound like, I like his sound. And I'm listening to the harmony. I'm understanding what the notes are good. I hear that. I could hear it. Because, if you listen, you can hear it. I mean, if somebody played a wrong note, that's why I tell people, just trust your ears, because the second you hit a wrong note, any musician, your ear knows it before your brain knows it.
Mm.
Your ear sends the message to you, but wrong note,
Yeah.
So once you trust your ears, and your ear is never wrong. It's never wrong. It's never been wrong in my life,
Yeah.
If it's a wrong note. I see top typographical errors in my exercise books, in my technique books. And when I'm playing and I hit a note, oh, that's a wrong note. I know they didn't mean that, and it's top typographical error. But, like people who learn how to read, they would say, oh, I guess they meant that note there, because they don't know how to hear yet, Um, so, I mean, like I'll listen to a song. Like I tell my students, like they try to learn a song like Moment's Notice, and they start learning, they think they're gonna learn it in a week, you know. And I tell them, I said, look, before I even started to learn Moment's Notice, I listened to it for maybe 2 years.
Mm.
I listened to it because I want to learn it in my head first. Once I can hear it, I'll say, okay, I think I'm ready to do it on the horn now. But
You know what's interesting, Gary? You mentioned something. Like Harold Mayburn told me something years ago. For many, many years, with his working band, he wouldn't play Lee Morgan tunes with them. And I asked him why. He said they weren't ready yet. Although they've been together for a number of years, he said that they're still not ready to take on that music yet.
yeah,
And that for that very reason, because it takes years. Just not you can know the notes and know the tones, but to know the music takes
yeah,
time. And
right.
you made me think of that.
Well, knowing is different. Knowing means you don't have to think about it. And what clued me in on that was the story that Miles tells about when he was learning around midnight. He said it took him 2 years to learn how to play around midnight.
Mm.
And every time Monk was in the room or around, he would ask Monk, "Am I playing it right?" And Monk would say, "No, not quite." And so he kept working on it. And finally, he kept working on it. He kept working on it. Finally, one night, Monk said, "Now that's it." You know. So that made me realize it might take a lifetime to learn a song. It might take a year. It might take a month. It's you don't just learn a song like in a day, for a jury or something. It takes. I mean, you have to internalize. For me, anyway, I have to internalize.
Speaking of Gary Bartz, Gary, pivoting to another subject, fitness. You've been able to keep yourself so physically fit for your life and keeping yourself going. What are some things that you've learned in terms of keeping yourself spiritually as well as physically fit,
Mm.
especially during these times?
Well, you didn't see me all those years, so you know. But, I mean, basically, I started getting into yoga when I was in my early 20s, and so I started thinking about diet and breathing because I'm a breathing instrument, so things like that, so I've always been aware, even when I've strayed down different roads, I always come back and know that um, you have to take care of yourself, you know. And this is that's something Lee Morgan said one time to me. He said being a musician is much better than being an athlete because athletes get old and they can no longer do their thing, but musicians, we actually get better as we get older. So if you stay healthy, and you need to be healthy because it's a strenuous, especially you look at the way Lee played. Lee
Yeah.
played so hard, man. Everything in his body, you could see it. It's always like that. So when you're playing that hard, you have to be in good shape. Yeah.
So what are some of the things you've been able to do? So you took up yoga early on, or you were doing some running. You were doing triathlons,
Right.
or you were running
Yeah,
and
I run. I still run. I haven't run. I had a surgery. I tell everybody, yeah, Sonny Stitt gave me a hernia. But I had a hernia surgery about a month and a half ago. So
oh, just
yeah,
recent. So you're on the mend.
yeah. So
Oh, I'm glad that
so I
worked
haven't
out.
been running. I've been back walking though. So
Yeah.
you gotta take care of yourself. The music needs it. The
Hmm.
music, for the music. Yeah.
As we conclude, so Gary, as I mentioned before, we have a whole new world of folks who've just discovered this music. What
Uh,
advice would you give them? People are brand new to this world of our world of sound.
you know what's funny? Somebody said this to me the other night, or said I was on the panel. They said they'll take in a song and won't name a genre because this is a genre messes things up. But they'll just put the song on and ask the people, how do you like this? Without any preconceived, because when you say, okay, I'm gonna put this so-called jazz piece on, right away, you know, the same way that when they say, well, so-called black person go move in your neighborhood. You know nothing. You don't come clean. You don't come to that situation clean.
Hmm.
Come with all these preconceived notions and historical falsehoods. you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just put the music on and let them decide.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Speaking with Gary Bartz, the Novel's Jazz is Dead, Volume 6. Gary, thank you so much for the music. Thank you so much for everything you continue to do to make the world a better place.
Thank you. Thank you for the conversation.